So I mentioned the pogroms. The pogroms were where they're basically the ghettos, okay, the places where the Jews were kept. The Jews became sort of the scapegoat. So if there was something bad economic time, blame the Jews. You know, if the crop fails, blame the Jews. Okay, and so you start to see this sort of blame happening, and then all the way up into World War II and what ends up being the Holocaust. You know, Hitler blames the economic collapse on the Jews. You know, today we're blaming the Chinese for the virus. And so you kind of see this ethnicity piece coming into play.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and you're also starting to see we're starting to first get the first taste of we're blaming this coming recession on the Jews. I'm already starting to see it, and you're like, man, these people just don't go away. All right, just put the white sheets away and just keep them in the closet. Stop blaming the Jews for things. All right. Okay, can I just flip to the next slide?
Sure.
So, okay, all right, slides are more fun. All right, so here you can see if you are in the Catholic world in Europe and the Orthodox world, you see them competing with each other, all right? Meaning, if you go into a cathedral and some rich family had donated this golden altar, off to the side, well, then another rich family's got to compete and they do another one. If you melted down all the gold in churches in Europe, you could solve all the earth's financial troubles. But you're going to see very ornate churches. Now, the Protestant churches, when Martin Luther protested, he was like, you don't need all of that. These people were buying tickets into heaven, all right? And, if I give you all this money to dress up the church, will my sins be forgiven? All the terrible things I did in business to get all this money. The Protestants are saying, no, well, you don't need that to communicate with God. All right, here you can see, we think of churches, houses of gods. All right, for Buddhists, down here you see this pagoda, and it's not so much a church that you go inside of. It's more of a shrine, a holy place that you would visit. All right, there's a thing here about the Golden Temple of Amritsar, that the Sikhs have in India. It's pretty cool. If you guys get a chance, check that out. Okay. Alrighty. Religious toponyms. Okay. So there's something that comes up about I wish I could name the cultural group that's originally there, and I'll think of it and I'll yell it out in my sleep. But what you see is when Catholics come in, they'll bring their culture with them, and they name towns after saints. All right. You see that in a lot of our places in the United States where we name them after the local culture group, like Milwaukee's the name of a tribe, Miami's the name of a tribe. You're going to see that the Catholics bring in the names of their saints. And in Spanish, it's San, San Francisco, San Diego, all right? Okay. And then here, mapping religious segregation, we see in Ireland, all right? We see the concentrations of Irish Catholics in certain electoral divisions and Protestants in others. And if I knew enough about where this was in Ireland, I tell you, I'm assuming it's up in Northern Ireland because I can see a lot of Protestants up there. People will tend to live in areas that they're comfortable with and close, with the people, and then close to their religious institutions. A lot of people will say, why do all the Muslims in Lodi live over in one part of town? Well, one, they knew other people. They're comfortable in the neighborhood. The mosque is nearby, all right? And then you can see what's fun about Muslims here in Lodi is they're becoming more American. They actually built a new mosque, and now the Muslims are going through what the Lutherans in Lodi went through back in the 1950s. They're going to go their separate ways. They're still the same, but it's like, oh, I go to St. Paul's or St. Peter's, all right? Well, Muslims have their old mosque and new mosque, but here in this one, you can see that kind of people flocking together in Ireland here. Okay.
Okay, so this one is talking about how religions are organized. And so there's two big divisions, hierarchical and autonomous. So the slide is showing us hierarchical space organization. So everything in the Catholic religion goes back to the Pope. Okay, so the Pope makes the decision. Okay, he's like the boss at the head, and whatever he decides has to be communicated to large areas, large regions, and then all the way down to our local parishes and our local churches. And so the way that they organize that is they split it up into these territories and they put people in charge. So you have the Pope, and then you have, I think the Cardinal would be maybe in charge of all of the United States. Underneath the Cardinal, there would be archbishops, and you can see these red lines would be big provinces, and that's where I guess the archdiocese would be like the center of where the archbishop would be centered, but he'd be in charge of all these local churches there. Another type of hierarchical religion is Mormonism. So Mormons, their pope is the president, okay, and he's stationed in Utah. And then it's broken down into stakes and wards. So you have like about 750 people in a ward, and then 5,000 people in a stake. The other type is autonomous, and they don't show you this here, but like Baptists, the Baptist religion, or the Baptist, denomination, has more of an autonomous type of organization. What that means is that each church gets to decide more or less what it's going to preach on. So if you want to spend, a year talking about the purpose-driven life, you don't have to get approval from the person above you and the person above that and the person above that. Now, there's accountability, okay? There's larger Baptist organizations and things like that, but generally it's not hierarchical like that, okay? The Muslim religion is also an autonomous religion. So within each mosque, there's some, as long as it doesn't go outside these really broad guidelines of the Quran, you can teach what you like. All right, so this one is showing us, that's a stupa, okay? Might come up in a question, who knows? But this is basically a Buddhist stupa, okay? It's just a shrine, all right? This one over here, you probably recognize, that's the Kaaba. They talk about making a pilgrimage or migrations, okay? And every, one of the 5 pillars, one of them we talked about earlier, just Muhammad, he's the last prophet. Another one is you should take a pilgrimage to Mecca, okay, where he's from, and you're supposed to go around this cube, okay, this sacred Kaaba. It's very, very expensive to go. I know a lot of families that save for their adult children even to go and do this. And they only issue a certain number of visas per year. I think it's 1.5 million visas per year to go and do this. But it'll be interesting to see with social distancing, right? What happens.
They shut it down right now. Ooh, before you go
ahead.
I just looked up stupas. Symbolize the 5 aspects of nature: earth, water, fire, air, and space. The avatar. It's the avatar.
What did they do? Like with their head or something? All right. Okay. This one is landscape. How do ethnic religions impact the landscape? And we talked about how ethnic religions are really, really tied to the physical place. Okay. So here they're showing you the Ganges River, and that's a funeral pyre. Okay. So showing how you would bury the dead in India, and it's a practical as well as a religious idea. Okay. Think of how many people are in India, right? Go back to the population unit. How are you going to bury all of those people? You're gonna be hard pressed for space. So the most sacred place someone can be buried is in the Ganges River. Okay, but they can't just jump bodies in there. So people actually line up. It's like a concert. Okay, you'll line up days before and wait for the relatives to be burned in the funeral pyre, and then they'll scatter the ashes in the hair of Siva, right? And then go back up to end up in wherever Siva is, I guess. Okay. The impact on the area around there, look at how much wood they're burning, okay? They're keeping that fire lit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, okay? And we talked about in my class how if you're not rich enough, you're not wealthy enough, and you're trying to bury Uncle Bob, Uncle Bob might just get thrown in the river, right? Okay. Down here, this one is Zoroastrians. Mr. Wright mentioned them earlier. And remember, that's how I want to go. Just put me in a large pit and let the vultures come down and send me back to the elements, okay? So that's the same idea here. Burning the body, the ashes are going back into the elements of the earth, right? Here, it's the scavengers that are going to take the body back into the elements, okay? We have different burial customs based on where we're from. All right.
Okay. All right, so our universalizing religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, they're going to have dates that are dealing with their founders, important things. Christianity, we know about, Christmas, the birth of Christ, okay? Easter is about the resurrection of Christ. It's not about rabbits crapping out chocolate bunny eggs, okay? All right, but we're into dates, whereas ethnic religions, they come from, well, and what's interesting is, we say that about Islam, about the journeys of Muhammad and whatnot, but they're on a seasonal calendar. Why can't I? Lunar calendar too. But they still, so the dates will move a little bit with that lunar calendar, but there's still specific dates to them when Ramadan is. All right, it's at this certain time of the year, okay? So even though it's on a lunar calendar, they're really built around a certain time. Ethnic religions are totally based on seasons. There's a lot of animistic background, and so we see that, spring would be rebirth, summer would be about harvesting, late summer, things like that. You get to a certain point of the year, the shortest day of the year, from that day forward, it's going to get warmer. You'll see those themes in their religions. Okay, challenges for religions in South and East Asia. All right, so we've got the map over here. South Asia, we're talking about India, Nepal, all right, it's majority Hindu, all right, over 800 million. But you've got close to 200 million Muslims in India, okay? Pakistan is majority Muslim, all right? And then over here we're getting into Buddhist. But here's the thing, okay? All right, Saleh, all right? He's cool, all right? All you girls think he's good looking. I saw him bench press 135 pounds with these eyes, all right? Saleh is, he's like rock star, okay? But what happens is when any minority group becomes a lot, then the group feels threatened by them. So you see that here in India. It's a majority Hindu nation, but they're kind of bothered by those Muslims, those Sikhs, because as their number grows, they don't like that. In East Asia, all right, Buddhism spread to China, but here you've got a communist country that believes that everything is about the state. It's not about religion. So that is the conflict there. And the Chinese have actually tried to wipe out Buddhism in Tibet. The Dalai Lama is in exile in India. They've tried to just, no, you're all Mandarin. Speak Mandarin. No, you're all Han. No, we're all about, the Chinese government. So those are their issues. Okay, Central and Southwest Asia, you've got the conflict of who's really in charge. Is it going to be the Shia minority Muslims? In some areas, they believe it's them, but the Sunni Arabs, they believe, the Sunni Muslims, which are more Arab, they believe that it's theirs. They're the larger sect, or larger branch, with 83%. And the reason they're larger is because of Arab trade. All right, okay. And then we're gonna wait till we get to the Jerusalem map so you can actually see this is a holy site to Christians, Jews, and Muslims. How are we on time?
Yeah, 1 minute.
1 minute. What do we got here? Okay. All right. Hindus has a very ancient religion, and they had social strata. And what you're finding in India right now is older people want to keep that, and younger people are like, is it really important? You're looking for a spouse, a mate, and your grandparents are worried about their social status. We see a little bit of it here. It's crazy there, all right? They are tripping, or as the Philadelphia people would say, they're drawing, okay? All right, and with the Soviet Union, they were like the Chinese. They believed in total dominance. You want to check that? And now, since communism fell, you see the Russian Orthodox Church coming back. Okay, and I talked about communism in China.